Hello everybody, welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing you a brand new review, and today I'm going to be talking about The Naked Gun, which is now out in cinemas, directed by Akiva Schaffer, and this is going to be something we've never really spoke about before on the channel, the Naked Gun films. I'll be talking about my history with them, I'll be giving my thoughts on the new one, what I think worked, maybe some things that didn't work, but as always, I do want to hear from people watching at home, so please do comment your thoughts on The Naked Gun, whether you've seen the new one. I'm not doing spoilers. There's nothing to spoil as such. I'm going to talk about the main story, but I'm going to try not to give away too many of the gags. I just find comedy can be a very difficult thing to review, to talk about. You don't want to give anything away that people will be braced for, that might not take them by surprise if they see it at the cinema, especially the funny moments. And as an overview, I thought this film was hilarious, probably one of the funniest comedies I've seen in a few years, and I'll get into that a little bit later on. But yes, I am here reviewing it, and my thoughts on those original films. Until the Monday just gone, I'd never seen The Naked Gun, any of them. I didn't know about there was a TV series, and what I've been able to do this week, ready for my screening, is I've been able to, I've been able to watch the original trilogy. That sounds so weird to say, the original trilogy, for the first time. Of course, this film is not a reboot. It is following in the footsteps of the trilogy multiple years later. Liam Neeson playing the role of Frank Drebin Jr. And I guess that's a big thing for me with this, that when there was a screening recently, I know a lot of people that came out saying it was hilarious, that it was very, very funny. I thought the trailer looked very funny. It was attached to a lot of big films, and the cinema screens I'd been in, it was continuously getting laughs throughout every time I was watching something new. So I was a little bit hyped for this, if I'm honest. I was excited for a comedy. This sounds weird to say. I don't think we get that many comedies out in cinemas these days. I know comedies, you can, obviously it's subjective, it depends on your taste, what you find funny and what you don't, but I don't think we get as many as we used to. And I don't mean to sound like an old person waffling, but certainly slapstick comedy, we definitely do not get as much now. And I guess that would be a concern for a lot of other people that maybe grew up with the originals or watched them over their lives and were concerned that, oh, there's a Naked Gun film, there's a reboot being done, or whatever. It's safe to say this film absolutely delivered for me. And I have to talk about the people responsible for that. But before I do, I'm just very quickly going to go over the story as little as I can. Frank Drebin Jr. must thwart the plans of a tech megalomaniac, I've played by Danny Hudson. I think that's the easiest way to do this. Of course, we have Liam Neeson in the role as Frank Drebin Jr., who I think is superbly cast in this. And if I sort of give my thoughts on Liam Neeson in this role in his career at present, obviously he's in his early 70s now. For me, maybe people my age, he will always be Qui-Gon Jinn. I know he's appeared in so many different franchises, films, some of the best films of all time, things like Schindler's List, but he will always be Qui-Gon Jinn, and I love him for that, and I love that character. It was a staplehood of the Phantom Menace for me, and what I always knew him from growing up. And he's got into this stage where we were just continuously having him doing these terrible action films. The early days with the first Taken film, and there was some good ones I really enjoyed. Walk Amongst the Tombstones was one of those, and then it hit the point where there were so many coming out, I just sort of stopped watching them, as I think a lot of people did. So to see him going into comedy, something he hasn't done a lot of, if I'm honest. I know he appeared in a couple of sketches. I can't remember, I don't think it was extras, I think it's Life's Too Short, but I definitely remember him on a Ricky Gervais sketch where he spoke about the fact he wants to be a stand-up comedian, and he plays that scene so straight. And that I remember being very funny, and whether that be Ricky Gervais or Liam Neeson's performance, I know he had a cameo in, is it Ted 2 or Ted 1? I can't remember which one, but Liam Neeson can do comedy, and to see him in the lead in a comedy film was so refreshing. I don't want to sit here and say his career needs it. He's in his 70s, he's had an incredible career, but it's so nice to see him away from action films. Granted, there is action in this, but to be in this comedic role, of course, Leslie Nielsen being the original lead of these, stepping in the footsteps of him playing his son, which adds to the jokes. It's probably not intentional that the fact his son is Liam Neeson in his 70s, canonically, his son should be about 30. I don't care, I'm not looking into that. I thought it was hilarious, and I thought Liam Neeson was very funny in this role. He isn't just parodying or trying to imitate Leslie Nielsen. What he's doing is he's putting himself in that situation. I don't think it works as well. I'm not saying he's not funny. He's very funny in this. But a lot of the jokes that work in those other films are Leslie Nielsen almost being oblivious to his surroundings, what's going on. And in this one, a lot of the laughter is specifically aimed at Drebin Jr. which does work at times, but also, like many comedies, not every joke's going to land. But I have to say, the film overall was hilarious. I was laughing from the first scene. I don't really laugh out loud at cinemas. I guess we don't get as many comedies, but there was quite a busy screening I was in, maybe like 40, 50 people, which I thought was a lot for a comedy. I didn't know who would turn up for this. And a lot of people were laughing from start to finish, which is great. It's clearly a sign that people have enjoyed it. It's reviews from critics that I've read. People have thought it's very funny as well. They've enjoyed the film. And no one's sitting here thinking we're going to get a masterpiece of a drama. We're going to get this incredible storyline. For intents and purposes, we've basically got the plot of Kingsman, the first film, going on. But the situational comedy that the characters find themselves in is incredible. And another thing on top of Liam Neeson's performance is his relationship with Pamela Anderson in this film. The chemistry they have is amazing, and it's really nice to see her in a role such as this. Now, I didn't get to see The Last Showgirl from earlier on this year. It was one of those films where the UK got shafted release dates again, but obviously if you look at her career, you look at the recent, I say issues, this isn't an issue at her behalf, the Pam and Tommy TV series that came out, then it would come out that she tried to block it and they got the rights through a newspaper or a magazine or something really nasty. So it's really nice to see her having a resurgence as a performer. And I thought she was very funny in this film, and she has taken on the Priscilla Presley role from those earlier ones, who does have a lovely, lovely blink and you miss it cameo in this. But I've got to say the pair of them's chemistry is amazing, and I know that obviously there's talk this week about their personal lives, that this belief they are dating, which is lovely. If them being on set having that chemistry has led to that, that's great. Fair play to them both, but I just thought as characters I enjoyed them. There was a comedic side to Pamela Anderson I hadn't seen before, particularly the scene at the jazz club. I thought she was very funny, and so a massive credit for the writers for writing these characters and for bringing in these actors. Also, I'll make a comment, obviously with Hollywoods, it's very common to pair up older actors with young actresses. I'm glad they didn't do that. I'm not calling Pamela Anderson old, but isn't it great to see two leads in a somewhat romantic story, and it's a 70-year-old and a 58-year-old? There's something about that also just feels a bit not safer with Hollywood, but it's just not what you'd expect certain things to be. And I liked that as well, that they went for this. And the jokes that work in this are very funny. Some of them are in the trailer, and the concern I have with a comedy is when the comedic jokes and trailers are the best jokes of the film. It's safe to say it's not in this. There are some absolute hilarious moments that happen later on. Obviously the lollipop scene, the young girl, all that's been spoken about, that's been over marketing. The sequence as well with, I can't say too much on this, but a lot of it you've seen, like the car stuff, and they are very funny, but there are moments that aren't in the trailers that are in those scenes that add to the humour with it. And there are certain characters, certain reactions. There is a literal, I think my first laughing out loud moment was the MacGuffin of the film being called P.L.O.T device, plot device. That's hilarious on the nose. 48 hours type message at the bottom of the screen turns out it's real and people walk into it by mistake. The comedy was sublime in this, and the film, for me at least, who is new to the series, lives up to those earlier films. If that is your type of humour, if that's what you find funny, this film is going to be funny for you. I think it walks in the footsteps of them, that it's great that it is associated. It is a sequel slash, we know it's not a reboot, but the legacy sequel or a potential soft reboot if they want to do more. This deserves to have the title. It isn't far-fetched. It isn't so far away that it doesn't work. And it does build upon the legacy of those original films with the original characters. So it is a massive thumbs up for me. And I've got to say with this, if they want to make more of these films, please make more of these films. It reminds me of something like Knives Out, where the first one comes out, it's a breath of fresh air. Granted, Knives Out's more of an original property, but it's in a very cliched known murder mystery type story. And Rian Johnson just wants to make more of them, and he can. And I'm going to be seated for them. If Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson want to make some more Naked Gun films, go ahead. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be watching them. This film is hilarious. I really do recommend it. Go and see this film at the cinema. If you can get in an audience and everyone's laughing, that's just going to add to the occasion. If you get a cinema by yourself, then great, you get yourself a private screening. So I'm excited to see how this performs, to see what it does with people, to see what the legacy of this will be. I really hope we could get more of it. I thought it was very, very funny, and hats off to everybody involved in this. So, as I said, it's almost a flawless review from me on this film. It's one of the funniest films I've seen of the year, and even talking about comedy at the cinema, I was thinking in the car on the drive home, what was the last really funny comedy I saw? And I was thinking of 22 Jump Street. That was a full screening, laughing start to end. Jackass 4 was hilarious, one of the best press screenings I've ever been to. We don't get enough comedies being made, and I'm not going to sit here and slate writers. I'm not going to also also sit here and criticise studios for that. A lot of the time it comes up to audiences, it's for them to go to the cinema. I understand why more comedies do end up on streaming services, but then when we have one as bad as Happy Gilmore 2 from last week, heading into something like Naked Gun, it is just country miles apart with regards to quality, performances, and everything going for it. And also, it's SummerSlam this weekend, so Cody Rhodes has an amazing role. He's been marketed in this. There is another wrestler that pops up that I lost my mind at. I was so excited to see him on the big screen. So there is the wrestling connection there, which is great, because I can then use that to now plug this weekend stuff. It's SummerSlam. Spoiler discussions, Sunday night, Monday night. We just did a review on WWE Unreal, the new documentary Netflix series. That's up on the channel now. More wrestling stuff to come, but of course there's new releases. Next week we've got Weapons. We've got Freakier Friday. I can't wait to see one of those two films, and I need to revisit a film from my childhood before I watch the other. So that's going to be some big releases coming. Alien Earth starts soon. There's going to be more TV, more film. Do stick with us, and everyone's support is always appreciated. So that is me rounding out from The Naked Gun. Go and see this film at the big screen, and I hope you get the chance to enjoy. So take care. See you on the next one.